I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. My guest this week is Heather O'Shea.
So we're taking a bit of a different stance away from where a lot of research and insights and measurement is now leaning into AI. And not to say we don't find important applications for AI, but for us, what we're trying to do is push the bounds of how we can understand humans better from every possible angle.
Heather O'Shea is a passionate insights leader with over 18 years of experience, including a focus on advertising research, digital analytics, and media landscape. She has led leadership positions at media agencies, publishers, tech platforms, and research companies. She is currently the Chief Research Officer of boutique market research consultancy Alter Agents, where she oversees the research functions within the company, partnering with brands such as Netflix, Walmart, Gatorade, and Spotify to address tough business challenges. She received her M.B.A. in marketing from Baruch College at the City University of New York. She has served as a mentor for women in research and on the board of the Advertising Research Foundation's Women in Analytics program. My interview with Heather O'Shea is coming right up, but first.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
Quick question. How confident are you that your content actually connects in every market? If you're guessing, it might be time to check out Phrase. Phrase is the industry-leading AI localization platform that helps you deliver content in multiple languages without losing your tone, your message, or your mind. It automates the manual work, slashes review time, and gives you real data on what's working where. Brands like Uber and Zendesk trust Phrase to scale their content across the globe and get it right every time. If you're serious about reaching more people and driving better results internationally, head over to phrase.com/MPN and take a look. That's phrase.com/MPN. Heather O'Shea, welcome to On Brand.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I am excited to chat. You know, just in going through your bio, you've worked across agencies, publishers, platforms, research consultancies. You really have kind of, I would imagine, a 360 view of insights. How has that shaped how you think about insights?
Oh, good question. Well, that to start, I have more empathy than the average person working in this industry because I've worked at every side of it. And so, you know, as a research vendor now, I hate to use the term vendor, but as a vendor, I have a lot of empathy for a brand marketer and the challenges they go through, the stakeholders that they need to engage, you know, the goals that they have to reach, but also from a media agency or advertising agency side, the challenge of proving that the work they're doing is successful while also measuring it, and you know, putting themselves at risk for that. So that's definitely a unique view that I've been able to attain across all the sides, but also from an insights perspective. For me, I've spent a lot of my career kind of straddling measurement, so maybe more of the direct response focused work and insights. And for me, I've really taken my career and leaned more into insights and just understanding people and how people make decisions, which is often really strange and irrational. So.
Yeah, I always look for a point where I can reference. I think it's the Antonio Damasio quote of not being uh, thinking machines that feel. We're
Yeah.
feeling machines that occasionally think.
Yes.
So, in talking about your background, say a bit about being at Alter Agents and how that's different, and how the boutique approach differs from some of your past roles.
Yeah. So, talk a little bit about how I was introduced to Alter Agents. So, I had worked at some, you know, media agencies and tech companies earlier on in my career, and worked pretty often with research vendors, and found that, especially as a part of a tech startup, that the larger research suppliers didn't quite understand my company and what we were trying to do. They're very focused on production and getting things out, and just putting the numbers in front of you. And when you're working at a really new kind of up and coming tech company, that is a bit of a challenge when they're not even using your platform and don't quite understand that nuance. So when I went over to Snapchat, which was my role right before Alter Agents, I was introduced to the Alter Agents team. And I felt like I was talking to real humans who understood, like had used Snapchat, understood what we were trying to achieve. Especially for a lot of the work that I did at Snapchat was advertising insights focused. So our audience was marketers, and we were trying to help them understand why they should be placing ads on Snapchat. So if the research tells us that, something to the contrary, that isn't necessarily a story we are going to bring to marketers. So what's the unique angle? What is differentiating about the ad experience on Snap? And the Alter Agents team, we were, since they are a smaller boutique company and more consultancy focused, I felt that they were truly addressing my needs. And I just started learning more about the company as I worked with them more as a vendor of mine, supplier of mine. And, by the name Alter Agents, we do things a little bit differently. We really immerse ourselves in the brands that we're working with. We get to understand where they're coming from and have that client empathy. So for me, it's been a really fun ride to come here. I've never worked at a small company before. So I went from, companies that are 2,500 plus people, and here we have 25 people. That's it. So, you'd imagine we operate a little bit differently than an average supplier in that sense.
So in looking at, you talked about, large companies like Snapchat, but you work with brands like Netflix, Walmart, Spotify. What are some of the common challenges that you see with these, big brands face when it comes to understanding their audience?
Yeah, well, a number of things. We've been saying this for decades at this point, but the pace at which media habits shifting has picked up is it's so hard to keep track of. And there are clear demarcations by generation, right? Every cohort has a different set of preferences when it comes to social media platforms that they consume, or how they wind down at night. Like what is considered lean back versus lean forward viewing, just even by generation that could differ, right? For Gen Z, that might be mobile is what's lean back for them. Like that's how they relax, is they turn their brain off and they're looking at an algorithm. But for older, I hate to say older because
No, it's okay.
I'm older.
I'm with you because Yeah.
But here we are. I know, like, if I take a survey now, I'm like, oh, I'm in that group now. But yeah, for millennials, Gen X boomers, there's their idea of lean back is the big screen. It's, more episodic content. So it's really a challenge to navigate and truly understand, like, where is attention shifting? How, like, what are the motivations for consuming content? And then where does how can advertising really connect with people in these different places?
So with that media fragmentation that you're talking about, how should brands approach research if their goal is to really connect at a time when it seems harder than ever to do just that?
Yeah. So this is my soapbox.
Okay. Yes.
Well, I believe that brands they've gotten too caught up in this concept. And luckily I don't hear the term that much anymore, but over the past, 10, 15 years, brands got really caught up in the concept of big data and the ability to track types of first party, information in real time. And in some ways, I think it's been a little bit of a blessing that privacy regulations have come in and put some restrictions on that, especially from a consumer perspective. It's an amazing thing. But also, this is not the end all be all of decision making for marketers. Knowing what people are doing right now is not telling you why people are doing that or what motivated them or their full path to get there. So I think we're missing the most critical part, which in my opinion is, a term that Google coined many years ago. It's the messy middle. Like when decision making is most important and critical is when people already kind of know that they want to buy something or, refresh something they already own. And they're trying to make that decision about where their preferences lie, what's meaningful to them. And this is the opportunity for brands to be seen as relevant. And there's with algorithms and where the internet has kind of diverged over the last few years, people have an expectation that like everything that's going to be served to them is relevant, right? Like, you expect when you open your Netflix that the content that's for you is really for you and you only. And when you open up your Instagram, that whatever you see in your feed is for you and, or for TikTok, it's for you only. So of course you expect that the ads that are being served for you is for you and for you only in that exact moment where you're still trying to figure out what are the products that are going to really make my life better or going to be most meaningful to me or be a representation, right, of who I am. So that is an area where research and insights can really help guide brands and give them some direction about how they message that, where they message that, who they message that to.
On Brand, we'll be right back after this.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
Put us in a box. Go ahead. That just gives us something to break out of. Because the next generation 2025 GMC Terrain Elevation is raising the standard of what comes standard. As far as expectations go, why meet them when you can shatter them? What we choose to challenge, we challenge completely. We are professional grade. Visit gmc.com to learn more.
Now, back to the show. So I am so thankful to be the recipient of that soapbox, and can't wait to share it with the world. I was just sitting here like, let her cook. So, but as I think about your soapbox, and you kind of teed me up for one of my soapboxes,
Ooh.
and but I'm going to introduce the topic because it's really a question, because I think sometimes research insights can be a little bit like, I want to make sure I have an insurance policy. I don't really do anything with it. But it's sitting over there, and it makes me feel better about myself and the work that I'm doing. And I think sometimes we have a similar goal when it comes to insights, that I want it all put together in a deck. I want someone to walk us through it, and then we're going to feel really good about it. We got that deck over there that we can think about every now and then, but we're not actually using it to guide our brand strategy, our creative, our storytelling. So how do you bridge that gap that can sometimes inadvertently have between insights and action?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what saddens me the most. I think we often say, like, don't put this in a drawer and like have it go die, right? Like that's the worst thing for a researcher to hear. We're, always so passionate about the work we do, but uh what I often ask the brands and the clients that we work with is, how how much can we push you? Like, how provocative can we be? Because what we prefer to do is that when we put together those reports, it's completely action driven. That we're leading with the go do's, and in particular, we're working with brands on things like, innovation, or decision making about bringing new products to market, or informing, overall brand strategy. That's one where we're being brought along to the meetings with the decision makers, and we're giving them. We're not saying these are the insights. I think you always have to take it one step further and draw that connection between what you're hearing from consumers with the larger cultural, socioeconomic, macro picture, to be able to say, okay, for this brand in this particular moment, based on what we heard and what we know, here's what you need to go do.
So if we talk about it in terms of go-dos, I would imagine another side of that, we've talked a lot about the insights on the front end, but looking at, attention being currency today, how can brands better measure and interpret attention across channels and with the aforementioned fragmentation?
Oh, that is a time.
There we go. There
And
we go.
everyone,
Work on that for a bit.
I know. Well, yeah, I think that's a really tough question that is being grappled by marketers and researchers throughout the industry. Um, and identifying, is it attention? Is it viewability? Like, there's always a different exciting currency that every holding company is trying to own and coin. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is that we want to know that the advertising that people are being exposed to is actually driving some kind of action. And if we're my soapbox is saying, don't just look at clicks and don't just look at the direct response type of action, then what's the alternative that isn't just pure, okay, we've reached this many people? And there, the concept of eyes on screen, or just being able to verify that eyes saw something, is definitely a step in the right direction, but I don't know if it's fully there. And one thing that we do at Alter Agents is we work with a company called Immersion that uses a device you can wear on your arm or a smartwatch, and it actually looks at oxytocin levels through heart rate variability. I know I'm getting very nerdy right now.
Wow.
But if you see a piece of content, it is giving you a score of the likelihood that someone is encoding that content in your memory. So you're saying to yourself, this is novel, this is interesting, this is relevant to me, and I want to come back to this later. So we've been doing a lot of work with marketers to help them determine what kind of messages, what kind of products on shelf. We even did one where we sat in the back of people's cars while they drove and looked at what radio and what different streaming messages were more likely to drive those levels of oxytocin and lead to memory encoding. So that is like one step further than attention, but
Yeah.
it's a pretty cool because you can look across different types of media and really understand, where are different audiences leaning in more, as it relates to messaging.
I think that's really important too, and really some bold creative ideas around measurement. And we don't usually put bold and creative ideas as a phrase in front of measurement. And I think the other habit that we run the risk of falling into is it's easy for anybody to load up something that'll spit out charts that are going up and to the right, and it doesn't always tell us something like sitting in the back seat can.
Right.
You qualified that by saying, I know this is really nerdy, but I wondered what else you're looking to on kind of the bleeding edge of insights and analytics that marketers and brand builders might want to keep an eye on as well.
Well, what we value the most at Alter Agents are humans. Like we're taking a bit of a different stance away from where a lot of research and insights and measurement is now leaning into AI. And not to say we don't find important applications for AI, but for us, what we're trying to do is push the bounds of how we can understand humans better from every possible angle. So, one way to do that is like creating a hack for measurement. So, as I mentioned, looking at more neuroscience measures with smartwatches. Another thing we're doing is building like multi-day, multi-week communities and having people come into a mobile platform and exposing them to different pieces of content over that time and being able to capture their reaction. So we're like simulating A/B testing, but we are verifying the humans that we specifically want to measure in a quantitative way. So I really love doing that, but we also do a fair amount of qualitative research just to try to understand really like why people make decisions, why they do things, and we give them different types of activities that they can complete on their mobile phone, and people love being content creators, right?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we tap into the media that people love as a way of measurement? So having people record videos of themselves and talk us through their shopping trip or, the barbecue that they're planning and what products they're going and what themes and like what's most exciting to them. It gives us a real deep understanding of, how culture is shifting and being formed and just those deeper understandings of audiences that you wouldn't be able to get just through like quantitative numbers.
I love that. And I think that is bold, interesting, creative, and speaking of which, you do a lot of leadership and mentorship. And as someone that works in a university setting, I know when we get students on the marketing track, a majority of those students are thinking what most would tend to think of when we think about jobs in marketing, of the ones that are creative agency side, brand building. But what you've just talked about, I think, is incredibly interesting. So, in thinking about that, how can we better share the great big world of insights with tomorrow's marketers in a way that what you just said, that it can
Yeah.
involve content creation and understanding behavior?
Yeah. Yeah. Like insights and research get such a bad rep. Um, and it's funny, like the way that I got into market research was actually, I was always a nerd. I was always math and science driven. But I always wanted to be creative. I play music. I craft all the time. So I wanted to go to art school for college, which I had absolutely no qualifications for. And my parents kind of pushed me towards business, and I was really pissed off about it. But then I discovered marketing, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be a creative. But yet again, my skill set lies in and statistics and things like that. And luckily, I had a marketing research class, and it led me to an internship. But I realized it was the perfect blend of science and art, and it's such an exciting, role to be in, especially if you're interested in understanding people and the decisions they make. So. I think that it's the presentation of things, because most people who get into this industry, who get into market research, maybe we're not the best designers, even though we're creative thinkers and we're good storytellers, but maybe we need a little finessing with the story. So what we have here, thankfully, at Alter Agents is like one of my counterparts. She is a former radio, TV producer and writer, and we have a comms person on hand. So anytime that we're producing, and we have a designer on hand, so anytime we're producing something for a client, we're trying to think like big, bold. How do we go beyond that? How do we think of every piece as a content creation, and hopefully that further excites people in the industry that there are creative ways of applying our skills, and it definitely makes the job way more exciting too.
Yeah. Now that is incredibly interesting, and here's hoping we'll get folks drawn in. So I've been smiling throughout the interview, from soapboxes to statistics, which I barely made it through. But it's now my time to get to ask you, Heather, for a brand that has made you smile recently.
Okay, well, so I have a 6-year-old, and he was home all of last week, as was my husband's a teacher, so he was also home. And it's rare that I get updates. I get multiple text messages for like just a regular grocery shopping trip. But he had taken my son to Costco, and they had the best day ever. And I have such a special place in my heart for Costco, and their marketing has always been very below the line. It's very like word of mouth driven, influencer driven, values driven. And
Yeah.
we just wrapped up a study that we'll be presenting on Gen Z and the importance of brands standing behind issues that they care about, taking care of their workers, and standing up for something in terms of driving loyalties, and as a way to really encourage loyalty amongst this generation. And I was thinking about like this experience that my husband, his kid and our kid were having at Costco, and taking all the samples, and they like ran into somebody they knew, and all the fun products, and all the licenses that they have there. I got like 4 or 5 pictures. So that Costco day made me smile. I was like, why do I wish that I was grocery shopping right now?
Yeah, well, it's an experience, and you talk about like what we would typically classify as their marketing being pretty basic, pretty meat and potatoes. But I think that what your husband and son experienced is every bit a part of the marketing, and
Absolutely.
I love it, and it makes me want to go. But
Right.
There we go. So, Heather, where can folks go to learn more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, they can check out Alter Agents, alteragents.com. And feel free to submit an inquiry if you want to chat. We love to brainstorm. We don't charge for it because we're all big nerds. So
Awesome. Well, we will link up to all of that in our show notes, which folks can
great.
find at onbrandpodcast.com. Heather, thanks for being on brand with us.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Hennika Watkins-Porter hosts The Entrepreneurial You, empowering entrepreneurs with insights on leadership, business, and success. Hennika, tell listeners what to expect from your show.
So we provide innovative business strategies and practical solutions to common entrepreneurial challenges.
And where can people subscribe?
Find us at hennikawatkisporter.com, as well as the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net, or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.